This is our series, Presidents and Civil Rights. This is part 2 of the 22nd and 24th President, Grover Cleveland. Let's pick up where we left off, Black civil rights. Cleveland believed that the government should work to assimilate blacks completely into civilization, and that the best way to do that was through educational opportunities. Cleveland referred to black education as the proper solution of the race question in the South. Efforts of Booker T. Washington and the Tuskegee Institute point the way to a safe and beneficent solution. If blacks in their mature years are to exercise the right of citizenship, he wrote in a private letter, they should be fitted to perform their duties intelligently and thoroughly. Cleveland contributed financially to this belief. At the same time, he would name somebody like Hoke Smith from Atlanta as Secretary of the Interior. Smith was a white supremacist and a segregationist. He embraced black disenfranchisement, calling the races different, radically different. He promoted several Jim Crow laws in a constitutional amendment that required either a literacy test or property ownership for voting, and then added a grandfather clause exemption for poor whites. He also supported separate taxes for black and white schools, calling it folly to spend the money of white men to give Negroes a book education. Smith's demagogic diatribes on behalf of white supremacy in the election are considered a primary cause of the 1906 Atlanta race riot, where approximately 100 black people were unalived during the riot. And this is the man selected by Grover Cleveland for his cabinet. But it gets better. Cleveland also named Augustus H. Garland as Attorney General. Garland was an enslaver who served in both houses of the Congress of the Confederate States. Yeah. As governor, his administration re-enfranchised former Confederates and rolled back protections for black citizens, effectively marking the end of Reconstruction in Arkansas. For the Interior Department, Cleveland chose Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus Lamar. Lamar, despite the name, is a white man, wrote the secession ordinance that withdrew Mississippi from the Union. Lamar was an enslaver who helped raise the 19th Mississippi Infantry Regiment and was a lieutenant colonel in the Confederacy. Jefferson Davis appointed Lamar to the position of Special Confederate Commissioner to Russia. Lamar embraced a staunch pro-slavery position. He opposed Reconstruction and voting rights for black people and was a passionate defender of Jim Crow laws and the KKK. Lamar did not consider freedmen and other black Americans fit to vote. He promoted the supremacy of the unconquered and unconquerable Saxon race. And Cleveland would name him to the vacancy in the Supreme Court. For Secretary of State, Cleveland named Thomas F. Bayard Sr. Bayard Sr. was a peace Democrat who opposed the Civil War. However, he also opposed constitutional proposals for ending racial discrimination and voting rights. He protested the requirement that readmitted Southern states ratify the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed equal protection of the laws to all Americans, including black Americans. He spoke against each of the three enforcement acts, which increased the federal government's power to protect Black Southerners' civil and political rights in the face of rising violence by the KKK and other groups. He spoke forcefully against the proposed Civil Rights Act of 1875. In his second term, Cleveland named two more Southerners of the old Confederacy to his cabinet. William L. Wilson enlisted in the Confederate Army and served as a private in the 12th Virginia Cavalry. And Cleveland chose Hillary A. Herbert to head the Navy Department. Herbert entered the Confederate Army as a second lieutenant and was later promoted to the rank of colonel of the 8th Regiment Alabama Infantry. He opposed the Reconstruction Acts, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Herbert vocally opposed the acts and any granting of suffrage to Black Americans, speaking in Congress and claiming Black Americans were unfit to have such rights. He claimed the granting of universal suffrage to the Negroes was the mistake of the 19th century. Cleveland did help to create a solid South for the Democrats by encouraging former Confederates to believe they had a friend in the White House. Now, the solid South refers to the southern states in the U.S. that consistently voted for the Democratic Party in the decades following the American Civil War, lasting until the mid-20th century. The solid South, or the solidification of the South, was further cemented by the systematic disenfranchisement of Black American voters through Jim Crow laws and other restrictive practices, ensuring white dominance in the political landscape. Additionally, acting on recommendation from the Secretary of War, a Southerner, the president decided to return captured Confederate battle flags to their respective southern states. He had to rescind the order due to national outrage. In the spring of 1887, Confederate veterans in the Association of the Army of Tennessee invited Cleveland to the battlefield of Shiloh to attend the unveiling of a statue of General Albert Sidney Johnston, who was unalived there 25 years before. Johnston was an enslaver who fought for the Confederacy in the Civil War. The president's official duties prevented him from making the trip, but he did send a gracious letter praising Johnston for his conspicuous valor, military ability, and for exhibiting the highest personal character. An enslaver. Cleveland wrote, "Every citizen of the country should take pride in the character of General Johnston."